Do you have a shady garden, or maybe the deer enjoy it a little bit more than you want them to? Well, welcome to my channel. I'm a Central Texas gardener in Zone 8B, and in today's video, I'm super excited to share a stunning shade garden created by author and gardener Pam Penick. She'll also share a little DIY from her garden, and she'll talk about her new book, Gardens of Texas. Be sure to stick around all the way to the end so you can learn how to win a signed copy for yourself.
But as far as fall blooming perennials for shade, this is one that I like. This is Forsythia sage, and it's a yellow flowering salvia, which is really cool. It's kind of unusual. You don't see a lot of yellow flowering salvias, and it is a shade lover for our climate. It can get pretty droopy in the summertime when it's dry, which, hello, is all of our summers, but it'll bounce right back when it gets a little water. So it does need to be planted in some shade. And then it just kind of does this all summer. I give it a good whack back by about half in like sometime in May or early June. And then it won't get so towering tall and won't start to droop. And then probably in about another 3 weeks or so, I'd say by the end of October, this will be in bloom. And it's just one of the last flowering plants in my garden. Get these really kind of rough leaves, these interesting thick stems that are segmented, which are kind of cool. And then it'll have these long spires of yellow flowers, which are really neat. Another flowering perennial for the shade garden that I really love is a native called white mist flower, or you'll hear it called shrubby white boneset. And you can see it's full of buds. It's about to start blooming. I always think of it as like, near Halloween, it'll start to bloom. And it is a real butterfly attractor. Not big, colorful butterflies usually, but like the little browner, orangey ones, they just seem to love it. And it kind of has a fragrance to it that's not a sweet fragrance. It's kind of, I always think of it as kind of spicy, kind of like, maybe like a Mexican plum smells. Maybe that's a little sweeter. But anyway, it's just one of my favorite fall perennials. And I really recommend it for shade, although it will grow in sun too. So this is fragrant sumac. And I first saw this at the Wildflower Center, and it was in late fall when I saw it, and it was full of like yellow and orange. It had great color for fall. And so I brought one home and I planted it, and it's gotten quite large. I mean, you can see how tall it is. It's like more than 6 feet tall. And it's just starting to get a little color this year. So it hadn't really been very colorful in the fall for me yet, but I think it's because it was a young plant and it's starting to go. So I'm excited to see if this will be the year that I get some real fall color on it. This is Mexican beautyberry. It's also called black beautyberry because the berries are so dark. It's Calicarpa acuminata, and it's a lot darker than our native American beautyberry, which I also grow. I have that up by the deck. But I tried this one once because I really love these really dark berries. And it's a bigger plant. It wants to get up to about 8 feet tall. I do prune it here and there so I can walk around it. And then the mockingbirds devour the berries on the American beautyberry, which is great because I want to feed the birds, but they tend to leave these berries a lot longer, so I get to enjoy them. So it's nice to have both kinds of beautyberries. And this one it needs shade. It can get a little droopy when we're in drought, which we're in right now. And my garden is showing the effects of the drought, but it's still doing great. And it tends to bounce right back once it gets a little rain or gets a little water. So this is Feather Falls sedge, Feather Falls carex, and this is my new favorite ornamental sedge. So I have sedges that I use for lawn substitutes. I use Berkeley sedge for that and other sedges. But this one I use more decoratively because it's got these variegated white edged leaves. And it has been a real performer. I love the way this lights up a little corner of the shady garden. And all summer long, it just did really well with the heat. I do once a week irrigation. And with my established plants, that's enough for this one. I do have one over there that's in a little more sun, and it has struggled. So I really think it wants a lot more, it wants a shadier situation. But those leaves just give a little extra light in a shady space. So this is my sedge lawn. I call it a lawnette. And this is Berkeley sedge, Carex stebosa. It is not a native sedge, and we do have some native sedges, but this sedge works really well here. And you can see I have all of these trees. These are all live oaks. and they cast pretty good shade. This area does not get a ton of sun. It gets a little dappled sunlight, you can see in here. And I mow this once a year. I do have to come in here sometimes and get oak sprouts that are popping up in it. But other than that, it is pretty carefree. It gets once a week water in my garden along with the rest of the garden. It's just a nice negative space, like a lawn would be. So I don't have to plant up every inch with plants that take more work.
Pam's new book, Gardens of Texas, takes us on a visual journey across the state, from the deserts of Marfa to the tropical abundance of Houston to the prairies of North Texas. This book features 27 gardens spread across 5 distinct regions. Each garden tells a story of adaptation of gardeners working with and not against the land.
So I wrote the book because I had been feeling for years that we didn't have good Texas representation in books and magazines and all the other things that I was looking at online to understand more about where we garden right here and the challenges that we face. It just wasn't represented. And especially now that we're going through these more extreme weather events with regards to cold and longer droughts and longer heat waves and just all the crazy weather that we're going through, I really felt that I wanted to talk with gardeners who are successfully gardening around the state and just understand how they're adapting their gardens, how they are thinking about different plant palettes to use that will be more successful. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go around and talk to gardeners who are successfully gardening and adapting their gardens, and then create this book to represent all the diversity and the beauty that Texas gardeners are doing.
While primarily shady, Pam's garden also features pockets of sunlight that make room for a few sun-loving plant selections.
This is another of my favorite plants. This is beaked yucca, Yucca rostrata. And this one is probably about maybe 15 years old to 12 years. So you can see it develops this big shaggy trunk over time. And some people like to prune off the shaggy grass. You can, if you're really into that, you can get in there with your clippers and make this more of a naked trunk. I don't do that because it's just work. And I figure that is there for a reason. I think it helps give sun protection to the yucca. But it doesn't hurt the yucca to do that. And a lot of people like to. But I just let it have its natural grass skirt. And it's a really gorgeous plant. It looks great no matter the season. When we had snowpocalypse, it was just fine, sailed right through that, and it loves the heat. So whale's tongue agave, my favorite agave. It's a hardy agave. It's got this beautiful dark spines, which are, quite deadly, so you don't want to plant this where you would run into it. Give it lots of space. It can get to like 5 feet across over time, so think about that when you got your little baby agave and you're starting out. But this one has a little variegation on it. A friend gave me this one when she was moving away, and if we get right in here, we can see this kind of moonlight yellow variegation. Most whale's tongues don't have that, but some do. And but they all have this beautiful blue leaf, these glaucous leaves that just really make it shine in the garden, and that kind of gives it that velvety texture. And you can see the leaves. You can see why it gets the name whale's tongue, because it's got these wide cupped leaves that, look like a whale's tongue. And it is not a pupping agave, so it won't spread. It's not going to like pop up agaves all around your garden. It's just going to be this solitary, big, beautiful, like blue rose. Is kind of how I think of it. It'll live about 10 or 12 years, and then it will bloom, and then it will die. So this area does get a little more sun than a lot of my garden, because we had a big live oak here when we moved in. We lost that tree, and so this area has opened up a little more. I would say it gets like half day sun, but it gets some pretty intense sun. Like it's midday sun, kind of the hottest part of the day is when it's getting blasted. One of the challenges of this stock tank planter is that I get more sun on this side. There's kind of less sun over here. And so that makes the plants that are in it grow a little differently, which is something that's easy to forget when you're planting an area that you want to have some symmetry, which I did. When I created this garden, this is what I call my circle garden. I wanted some formality in the design, because I designed it to be viewed from above, because there's the deck right behind you. And I wanted to be able to look down and see this geometry. And so I have the sunray design with the stonework, and then this central feature, which when I started out, this was a stock tank pond. And I had that for many years and loved it. But then I decided to try something different. So now I have a stock tank planter. A golden thryallis. Look at these flowers. This is not a native, but it does so well for us. And what I like is that it will grow in full sun. It will also grow in shade under my live oaks. It does not care. It will bloom. It will grow. It blooms more in full sun. But I have some in the side yard over there by my gate that is blooming in the shade. You can shape it, you can hedge it, you can let it this I don't hedge, I do prune it up off the driveway, so I just get the branches up off the driveway. But it responds very well to pruning. If we get a hard freeze, a hard winter, it will die to the ground, and I will come along and I'll cut it to about like here. Once the danger of freeze is done, I might not cut it back as early as I cut back all my perennials because I don't want to risk losing it if we got like a late freeze. So maybe I would cut this one back to the ground in March instead. But if we get a mild winter, it'll stay evergreen or mostly evergreen. So it's a very versatile plant, great for shade. And I'm in Northwest Hills, tons of deer. They, as far as I can tell, have never touched this plant. And now that I've said it, they'll probably come along and munch it, but I've said it before. They don't ever touch this plant. It is the evergreen sumac tree, which is a native evergreen tree. It's getting ready to bloom. A real pollinator plant. Bees love it. There will be other pollinators on it too when it blooms. And that's just a sweet little understory evergreen native tree. Very, very drought tolerant, very, very heat tolerant, really great for our Central Texas climate. And here's another, let me put this off from it. Here's another good tree for.
You okay? It's gonna get. Oh, was it?
It's like trying to dive bomb me. Yeah, we'll cut that part.
Okay.
This Texas persimmon was here when I moved in. I feel like I've planted almost all of the plants in the garden, with the exception of the live oaks, which are everywhere. Those were here. A crepe myrtle over there, and this Texas persimmon, which I think is pretty old because these are super slow growing. You can see it's growing like right out of a crack in the limestone. And so I really treasure this tree because it's been here a while, I think, and it's got some good size on it. It has these beautiful silvery gray trunks that look like crepe myrtle, but it's just a beautiful native tree. And it does fruit if you have a female tree, and I do. So if you have a male tree, it doesn't create fruit, but if you have a female tree, it does. And that weighs it down. Like in the late spring, early summer, these branches will really get a little droopy. I think a lot of wildlife comes to eat the fruit. I mean, I think we get raccoons and possums out here eating that fruit, but that's okay. And it's just a beautiful little tree. I try to keep it pruned up to give it the nice shape like a crepe myrtle. And it loves full sun, but it also is here in my garden enjoying a lot of dappled shade under the live oaks. So this is firecracker fern, and this is the round leaf firecracker fern, which I had to kind of look for. It's more shade tolerant. So there's the normal firecracker fern. It really wants full sun, and I had that one here, and it wasn't as happy. It didn't bloom very much, but then I got the round leaf, and it blooms a lot more in my shady gardens. This is one of my favorite plants. This is purple skullcap, Scutellaria rhytii. It is a native skullcap. And it is just one of my very favorites. Now, this is not a shade lover. This loves sun. It will kind of struggle along if you have it in light shade, but it really wants full sun. You can see this one's right here on the edge of the street. It gets a lot of reflected heat. Probably every dog that goes by pees on it, and it doesn't care. It is just blooming its little head off. It does this spring through fall. I can't say how happy I am about it. That said, I have talked to other gardeners. I have friends who say, I can't grow purple skullcap, so maybe it's a little picky. This one's obviously in its happy place. I've got these little guys over here. Same plant. You can see they're not blooming as much. I do not know why, but they're still blooming, and they will bloom more when we get some rain. It's just been very dry, and they're kind of pouting right now, but they're still. What I love is they have this rounded form. I don't prune it to make it look like that. It just does it all by itself. and it stays nice and low, so it won't block your view when you come out of your driveway. Bumblebees love it. I come out here in the afternoon and bumblebees are all over it, and I love bumblebees. This is Amistad salvia, and you can see it has these deep purple flowers that are tubular, so hummingbirds love them and bees love them. And this is a great shade plant. This one you can see is getting morning sun, which it likes, but it will grow in deeper shade too. It would probably grow in full sun if it got lots of water, but I find that it's best to have maybe just morning sun for it. And then it gets about 4 feet tall, covered in flowers, spring through fall. It's a beautiful plant, and the hummingbirds and the bees will love it. And along those same lines, this is a salvia that's new for my garden. This is called Darcy sage, Salvia darcyi, and it's got these really beautiful red flowers. It's this big bushy plant that's probably about 4 feet tall. Again, hummingbirds love, love, love it. Bumblebees love it. I see bumblebees on this one all the time. I don't see any right at the moment, but they do love it. And I first saw this plant in West Texas when I was out there shooting gardens for the book. And I was like, what is this plant? It's sometimes called Galliana sage. And then I found it when I came back to Austin and planted it. It took about 2 years for it to really get its legs under it and to start doing what it's doing now. But you can see it looks great, especially with the chili piquin, with the red chili peppers. Next to the salvia flowers. I like that combo a lot. I do love mangaves, and they are coming out in all different varieties now. This sitting here on this wall were given to me by a Mangave grower named Hans Hansen. He's Plants Clanson online, and he gifted me a lot of these agaves, and I potted them up in these little plants and gave away some of them to friends. But they are so beautiful. Mangaves are hybrids of manfredas and agaves. So they're hybrid plants. So they have a combination of traits of the parent plants. And so you'll see them in all these different lovely colors. They're not typically as sharp and maybe scary as agaves, and they stay smaller. Although some of them can be sharp. Like this one's called Man of Steel, and it is pretty spiky. But most of them are just more like fleshy manfredas. And look at the coloring on that. I mean, look at those purple freckles. They've just got beautiful coloring, beautiful shapes. And this one I love is called Bad Hair Day. I mean, look at that, the crazy leaves on that. They're fun, and they're not winter hardy, really, especially not in pots. So I do protect them in the wintertime. If it's going to be a hard freeze, I'll either bring them up onto my porch and throw a sheet over them, or I'll carry them inside if it's going to be below freezing for, like a day or so. But otherwise, all winter, I leave them out here and I just haul them in and out as I need to. Well, I was always inspired by books that would give a little practical information in addition to like the beauty of the gardens that you're looking at, something that you could really take home. And so I wanted to give that to readers of my book, so they would be able to pull something from each garden that maybe they could try at home, whether that be maybe some plant ideas from that garden or some design tips or some growing tips like how to make your own pocket prairie or something like that. I really wanted to provide that little bit of practical information in addition to the beauty of each garden that I was showing. So I have had a lot of people asking about this on my blog over the years, and I copied this from, I think it was a magazine where I first saw this. What it is 2 sizes of concrete pavers, and I put it on a very sturdy base, so it's a tamped base underground so that it's very level so that it will not shift over time. But I love to have plinths to raise up planters to give interest in the garden. And this one just has a really cool contemporary look with these different sizes. I've also seen it done with the round pavers, if you can find them. Those are a little harder to find, those round concrete pavers. But if you can find those in 2 sizes, looks really cool when it's done with round. You can also do a little twist on each layer and give it that, So you can do this in many different ways. So I have a lot of deer here in the Northwest Hills neighborhood, and herds of deer come through here in the evening and then early morning. So I have to make sure I have plants that the deer don't love to eat. And that's been a process of trial and error because everybody's deer have different tastes, and what works for one person on one side of town or in a different city could be completely different from what will work for you. But you can find online the plants that are recommended as less tasty to deer and experiment with those. For me, what has worked over the years has been plants that are fibrous, like yucca or this Texas sodal. It has really fibrous, tough leaves that they don't like to eat. Also plants that are aromatic, that have aromatic foliage, like Amistad salvia, salvias, herbs. Plants like Jerusalem sage are plants that, any plant that has like a flavorful leaf, a deer won't find tasty. And then the last kind of plant that works great for me is grasses. So anything that's grassy, they tend to leave alone. This is Mexican feathergrass and sedges, that sort of thing. Those are the least tasty for deer, and those work great for me. The one problem that you don't always think about when you're planting a garden with deer is what they will do in the fall during the rut. The bucks like to rub the velvet off their antlers on plants that give a little resistance. So like young trees, if you don't cage them or protect them, they will destroy them. They'll shred the bark off those trees or even flatten them. They'll also do it to plants like this Yucca rostrata. So I put these rebar stakes in, and I got these tall stakes so that they're high enough that they are not at risk for anybody falling on them, and put these little rubber tips on to protect myself when I'm working around the rebar. But that's what these rebar stakes do. They're hammered into the ground pretty far, and they just are enough to keep the deer from getting their antlers in there and knocking the plant and smashing the plant to the ground. That's also what these steel planters do. They just get plants up off the ground, which is an aesthetic thing, but also a way to protect some of the plants that need a little extra protection by being up a little higher. It helps that way too. I do also cage some plants. I used to cage more plants, and I use this really, it was rolled wire, and I would always choose the black rolled wire. You can just buy this at a big box store. It kind of blends in. You don't notice it so much as the shiny silver wire. And I would just attach it to these. You could reuse rebar to hold it up. You just want to give it some stability so that the deer can't, run into it or pull it off. But the beauty of a cage like this is that it protects your young tree trunks so that the deer can't destroy them. This is a Mexican redbud, and while it's still small, it needs a little extra protection from the deer. I used to do more caging. I would cage every year, like this agave. But the agaves grow, and it got to be a real pain to try to fit in the cages around these larger plants. So now I'm trying these rebar stakes to give those plants some protection.
So I'm really excited to be giving away a signed copy of Pam's new book, Gardens of Texas. If you're interested in winning it, make sure that you leave a comment below saying what your favorite part of Pam's garden was, and then head over to my Instagram for the giveaway details. Also, I'll leave links for Pam's blog Digging and a way for you to order her new book. And until the next one, y'all take care.